So I got to play a little bit of Season 1 early. I got flown out to Sledgehammer Games to go ahead and play some of the new maps and ask a little bit of questions about some of the content coming with Season 1. Although the main focus was multiplayer, we were able to sneak in a couple Warzone and Zombies questions in there as well, so we're able to kind of include that in this video. The gameplay you're going to see in the background is from that capture session where I'm going against a lot of other content creators. I believe they had 24 total content creators there, and that also allowed us to try some of the new weapons, including the Ram 7 and the brand new sniper. One of the big issues with that, though, as you'll see in some of the gameplay, is we're going against top level snipers. They were utilizing this sniper, and I'm sure they're gonna have really good gameplay on their channel showing off how broken the sniper will probably be in multiplayer. We'll kind of see how it fits into Warzone. Our presentation included kind of what we all saw in the blog and the battle pass and all that stuff last week, but there was a bunch of stuff that didn't make it into that blog, and I expect there to be another blog to follow up on that. But you know, I'm going to cover what we covered at that meeting. So first things up is they are going to be including the health and stamina bar. So the same way that the health bar already exists in Warzone and Zombies, they're going to bring that over to multiplayer, so you have a little bit more transparency around your health. And one other thing is they're going to bring the stamina bar into it. A lot of people didn't already know this at launch, even though it's kind of been touched on, is that your character works based off an invisible stamina bar. They're just going to allow us to see this bar, and it's going to be right next to the health bar, so you kind of get a good idea of what your movements are doing. I know a lot of people are doing the slide canceling, hope that resets tack sprint or whatever, but that's not really the best way to move around the map. You want to utilize your stamina bar, know when and when you can't do certain movements, so it's just not a spammable thing for no apparent reason. You're going to have purpose with your movement, so that's not going to impact the movement in any way other than you being able to see when you have certain amount of stamina to do certain types of movements. So while we're on the topic of stamina, that kind of leads into movement. They said that they do have plans to eventually implement a bunny hop, at least one where you can kind of get a little bit of a bounce out of it, but they were having trouble figuring out how they can do it where it's not overpowered, because they definitely want to be balanced where it's a tool just like slide canceling or diving or any of the other movement potential that is in the game. They also plan to address snaking, and this is really only going to impact the 0.0001% of players that abuse snaking. I know some people might think they do a lot of snaking, but they're talking about like the worst offenders of snaking. If you're not really familiar with this movement, basically it's you going to a prone, sprinting up, going to a prone behind cover, which makes your character model nearly invisible. It just kind of pops up there and gives you a lot of intel. Normally you do this kind of heavily in Warzone, where maybe you go behind cover, you do a plate, you pop up, you check your surroundings. If somebody's pushing you, your gun up, and you're ready for the gunfight. Won't impact that movement at all. This is specifically for the over abusers, and typically you see this in the CDL or the competitive league, where maybe it's a 1v1 in S&D. They only have a one life mode, so they can't really afford to die or else they lose, and they're doing that for 30 plus seconds. This is to kind of like modify that a little bit so it's not abused as heavily. If you still use snaking, you'll still be able to snake, and you really shouldn't notice a dramatic difference in really any way other than those extreme scenarios that I mentioned. Another movement thing that they're changing finally, thankfully, I know some people might be upset with this, if you're a Ninja Turtle, you run that riot shield on your back, you're still going to incur a movement penalty. If you're walking around with the riot shield, it's going to have a bigger movement penalty. So they are heavily nerfing the riot shield. Probably one of the first nerfs we've seen to it while it's stowed in ever that I can think of. So it's a big change. I'm all for it. I never really run the riot shield unless I got my camos, but I've gone and done that already, so I'll probably never touch a riot shield again. Also with Season 1, they plan to do more tuning on the spawns, and in Season 1.5 or the mid-season update, there should be a more significant adjustment to this, specifically for Hardpoint, which right now kind of has the worst of the spawns. Also for the first pass of weapon tuning, they plan to nerf kind of rifles kind of across the board. And this is more the ones that are a little bit outliers to good. The ones that are kind of average and below average, they're probably not going to touch. And the same thing for SMGs. They're going to go ahead and buff those. Again, if they were already kind of good, probably going to leave those alone. If they suck, they're definitely going to get buffed. They're kind of average, they might receive a buff to kind of bring the rifles and the SMGs closer together. And they'll kind of just tune this as it goes. Obviously, with the map variety, a lot of the maps cater towards more of a long distance engagements. and you really got to be able to finesse if you're going to be using the SMG, which I think people are adapting and they're learning to play the maps, but that's one of the weapon tuning things that they're going to be adjusting. On top of that, they're going to further fix and nerf the frag. It kind of got a bug fix the other day, which allowed it to work with the EOD or the vest that will protect you, and that was a good change because it was broken from the get-go, but there was other bugs, and they're just going to nerf the damage of it so it's not so broken. There was also a lengthy list of bug fixes that they're aware of and that they're working on. I think some of the armory stuff, I mentioned that straight to them. I said, hey, why are the challenges all bugged? You unlock it for a gun, you don't even get the attachment. On top of that, there's a bunch that are hidden. I did a video covering this. If you guys already saw it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a lot of ammunition, rear grip, optics, muzzles that are literally hidden away, and they're all the way at the end of a attachment category for specific weapons, so you'd pretty much never see them unless you tab to the left or filter by lock. And they said that they plan to fix some of that stuff because there's certain bugs associated with that, and then there's potentially new weapons that those would unlock for them. So that should get addressed, hopefully sooner rather than later, but they are aware of those issues. I also had an opportunity to ask them why the vehicles feel like trash. This is a little bit of a ground war question, a zombies question, and a Warzone question all in one. And they said that there is a pass through that they're gonna do to make these vehicles feel better. In addition, we are getting a new vehicle in Warzone, but that's besides the point. They just want to make the vehicles handle and behave better, because if you drive them right now in zombies, which is on the new Urzikstan map, they all feel like trash. All of them. The inertia, the get up and go speed. If you get stuck on a rock, you basically can't even turn. Some of the maneuverability is awful. They're going to do a pass through, and they're going to help to improve that. I don't know if that makes it right into season 1 or season 2. I also had an opportunity to ask questions about optics. One of the things that a lot of people are concerned about when it comes to optics is, even though we're glad tuning is gone for the vast majority, some people did enjoy tuning their optics. So you could either put it close or far, and they said they're looking into adding this as a feature, and that leads into reticles. Apparently it just doesn't work currently the way that they would want. I don't see us getting 2019 reticle grind back, or even Cold War, or even Vanguard. For whatever reason, it wasn't able to get set up that way. I don't think it'll ever happen in MW3, unfortunately, because there are certain reticles that were always cool to kind of grind for, whether it was a blue dot on other optics, or the T-bar, or whatever else for snipers. I mean, they just kind of eliminated that, and that's unfortunate. Then when it comes to the multiplayer maps, we got to play the 3 new maps, and then we got to play a couple of the Vortex stuff, which we can't really show off gameplay, even though I thought that they looked awesome. When it comes to meat, that one's going to be a very popular map. I think it's kind of like if Shoot House and Shipment had a baby between the pacings. It's faster than Shoot House, but it's not as insane as Shipment, where it's just nonstop. So you kind of have a little bit of maneuverability, but the map is very tiny, and I think this is going to be great for challenges. Greece, I thought it was okay. We only played it once. I didn't think it was particularly good. I don't really like maps with water. I think they're awful. I think the colors look good, as you can see, but in general, it was just like, I don't know. It didn't, I don't know if the map was too long or what, but I wasn't really a big fan of the map. Then lastly, from the regular 6v6 style maps, we got to play Rio, which I actually like this map a lot. I kind of went on my longest streak when playing, which is kind of hard to do when you got other creators that know how to flank and all these things. You got these one-shot snipers that are going crazy, and that's all they use. I like the layout generally, so that was fun. Gunfight also returns. Sadly, it's only one map. That's kind of disappointing to me personally. I think this should have launched with at least a few maps. Even if they repurposed the gulag that we're going to have in Warzone, that would have been kind of cool. But besides the point, it's symmetric. You swap out the weapons. I managed to do pretty well in one of them. We won both of the matches, but I did pretty well in one, and I did okay in the other. So that's just kind of how it goes sometimes when you're going against sweaty players. Most of the stuff they covered, there was other cute questions I was able to ask. And one of the things was specific about Warzone. We asked, what will the player count be? And they essentially said the same that we played at Next. And what that was trios, and that was 99 players. So I'd imagine it's gonna be 100 players for solos, duos, and quads, which I know is disappointing to a lot of people. I think we still gotta kind of figure out to see how it plays. And then on the polls check, we got a ton of information from Raven. They ended up being in the chat. This is something I do weekly with repolls, and we kind of do this. We host a little bit of a podcast. We bring different people on, discuss state of the game. They were able to discuss different things things in the chat. So based off that, we actually got new information. So horizontal zips have been improved. Even in the version that we see in zombies, it's been improved on that. They have a newer version of the game that's going to drop on Wednesday that's going to improve that. So the grip, like you'll be able to fly onto a zip and then grab the zip essentially if you know how to line it up properly. They also went on to explain the new public event flyby system. It's going to bring in 6 loadouts, so up to 6. And it looks like the other ones that are the cube, which obviously once those hit the gas, they're unusable. So something to keep in mind. Loadout prices have been reduced. That's a huge change for Warzone. I think that's one thing that slowed it down. Hopefully they lower it with each zone, or they reduce this number down to kind of what we saw in Warzone 1. But is it 25% reduction? I'm guessing quads will be 15, trios will be 12, 10 for duos, and then 8 for solos. At least that's kind of what I'm thinking. And then they went on to say that the default perks at COD Next were not fully representative of today's announcement. So these ones right here that were mentioned in the blog, we really only had access to tac pads. The other ones, I don't think we had. We may have had quick grip gloves. I generally run fast hands, so maybe I didn't notice that. But the other ones we did not. The game will play a little bit smoother. We're going to get an extra perk for, since you don't have to run overkill to get 2 primary weapons. That's a huge thing there. Enables reload while running. That is a crazy good change in increased climbing and mantling speed, which is huge. So it's like you're going to load in, get your loadout, you get your 4 perks, plus you spawn in with these 5 perks, plus you get a vest. So we're talking about 10 perks that you have. It almost feels like a specialist bonus every match once you grind up your loadout. And they also talked about the gas mask. Obviously, there's a manual usage if you want to put it on your face or if you want to stow it in your backpack. Now it's shifted all the way to the left. Hopefully, they'll give us its own dedicated spot eventually so it doesn't take up an inventory slot and it'll take place right next to the ammo. But that one's another huge piece of information that they went over. And those were a couple of the new information that we had from combination of me visiting Sledgehammer Games and then Raven hanging out with us in our chat. Let me know what you guys are most interested about. Appreciate the support. Thank you for watching as always. Have a great day.